we're going to explore signs that you're falling out of love. You've heard the phrase, I fell in love. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. I don't know that I've ever said I fell in love with Luella. I will tell you this. The very first time I ever saw my wife, if you ask me right now, Rick, when did you meet Luella? I don't know. I really don't know when I met her. I have no idea. I remember the first time I saw her. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. And I was at an event and I'd never seen her before. And it was a church event, as a matter of fact, with college age folks. I was in the U.S. Navy at the time. And so I'm at this Tuesday night event with a bunch of folks my age. I was sitting on the couches of these people's house. I had never seen her before. She comes in the door and she walks across the room, headed to the kitchen. I'd never seen her before. I can't tell you why or how or for what reason. I knew I wanted to marry her. I went back and told my senior chief the next day. I told my senior chief, I said, hey, senior chief, I said, I saw the girl I'm going to marry. He said, what's her name? I don't know. I just met her last night, or I just saw her last night. What's her name? I said, I told you, I don't know. I just saw her last night. And he kind of rolled his eyes. About 2.5 years later, he actually did our wedding. And so I don't know when I actually met Luella, but when I did see her that night, something happened in me. I don't know that I fell in love. I just knew somehow instinctually I loved her, didn't know her, and I wanted to marry her. I don't think it was a fall in terms of what I believe fall is. But we know that people like to say people fall in love. Whatever that means to them, it's okay. Well, if you can fall in love, then you can fall out of love. Now, for me, one of the core pieces of my teaching and what I believe about relationships is that the most important part of a relationship is not the husband or wife. It's the relationship itself. It's the third part of the relationship. Us wins, you both win. Us lose, you both lose. And the way you know that you have us in the house is you feel its presence and you feel its absence. And we talked about love being an emotion before, all right? Love is an emotion. And the logic of emotion is pain pursues pleasure. The brain is wired to avoid pain and pursue pleasure. If you treat me on a regular basis, an ongoing basis, in a way that you are a source of pleasure, because you are a source of pleasure to me, then that creates feelings of desire, which creates feelings of love. And we love those who are a source of pleasure. But if you're a source of pain, you don't feel love, you feel threat. You feel a sense of danger. And when you feel threatened or danger, that this other person is a danger because they're really a pain, they're a source of pain, your brain won't let you feel love. Your brain will let you feel fear because you're afraid of this person. And what the brain does is fight, flight, or freeze. So we're going to assume if you can fall in love, you can fall out of love. So what would be the signs that, I'm going to do it again, folks. You know me. I love that song, but I say it all the time. What are the signs that you lost that love and feeling? By the Righteous Brothers, all right? What are the signs that you've fallen out of love? What are the signs that your partner has fallen out of love or is falling out of love? So I want to take a look at that today in our segment and just help you understand, though, if as you're listening to these things, you go, wow, this is me or this is my partner. You start to see these things. Right Well as a curriculum is designed to teach single, dating, and married couples how to be the best version of themselves so they can love well and that you can create a strong, healthy sense of usness. And Relate Well has taken a lot of people who've fallen out of love and reconnected the love, the feelings of love, the goodness, all right? And that's what we actually do in our work is take couples who've had years of therapy, nothing's working, and we get them reconnected again. I always tell people that's actually easy to do to get you to fall back in love. Actually, I think you have to deal with hurts or pains that block the feelings of love so they can reemerge again. And we actually teach the process and the skills and tools that make that happen. If you've lost those love and feelings, or your partner has lost those love and feelings, how would you know it? Are you ready? If you're taking notes, get your pen out. Signs that you've fallen out of love or your partner has fallen out of love. Here we go. Number one, you have become over time less interested in them. You've lost a sense of wanting to know them. You've lost a sense of wanting to listen to them. You don't really want to hear much of their hopes and dreams, what happened during the day. You don't really want to open up to them. You find yourself that the friendship is waning. And you don't really want to be friends with them, actually. You actually find that over time, you become indifferent to them. You're indifferent. So if they're hurting, you don't really care. If they're fearful, you don't really care. If they're struggling with something that happened at work, you don't really care. Because when you start to lose interest in being with them, you become apathetic. You become indifferent to them. When a person gets to the place of indifference or apathy, what the brain has done, the brain has says, you're a source of pain. I don't want to feel this pain with you. So the brain has an uncanny way of going to indifference, to apathy. You just quit feeling emotionally with them. It's a self-protective mechanism of the brain when a person is a source of pain. The problem is once you hit that apathy and indifference, you lose care. The worst message you can send to any relationship is that message right there. I don't care. Because if you send the message, I don't care enough, then I've found that people eventually walk out of your life. Why? Because why would I stay in a relationship with someone who doesn't care about me? If one and or both of you have found yourself becoming less interested in being with that your other partner, ask yourself, have I moved to indifference? Am I apathetic? Is there a part of me that just doesn't care anymore? I always believe that you can get the feelings of love back. That I believe strongly. There are certain things you need to do to get there, and you got to be as a way of being to help make that happen. And what I've learned from my mentors and from study academics, the brain, whenever the brain has too much pain and fear and anger, then what the brain does, it starts taking feelings of love and goodwill and start pushing it. Think of it this way. We'll say that this cup right here is what's known as the limbic system, the emotional jug, all right? Emotional trash can, whatever you don't call it, all right? This has all positive and negative emotions come out of the same area of the brain. But what if this thing is filled up with too much anger and hurt and pain, rejection, abandonment, hopelessness, helplessness? What the brain does, the more this thing fills up with negative, what the brain does, it starts to push to the bottom of the limbic system, the bottom of this emotional cup. It starts to push to the bottom feelings of love, feelings of goodness, feelings of relief, feelings of pleasure, because your brain will only feel the negative. So there has to be a way to get all that negative off that part of your brain, and theoretically, the feelings of love would actually reemerge. And this is why people get to that place where they say, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Again, we tackled that really heavy yesterday. But when a person says, I love you, I'm in love with you, they've lost the feelings of love. And usually when that happens, the person becomes indifferent, apathetic. So one sign is that you're less interested in actually being with them. And way you know that is kind of check your heart. Are you indifferent? Are you apathetic? You just don't care about their hopes, dreams, what took place during the day with them, etc. Number two, you actually find yourself not thinking about them regularly. You actually find yourself not thinking about them regularly. Is when you actually find yourself really not thinking about them during the day, you don't really think about them hardly ever. You think more about yourself or your work or the kids, whatever. When you find yourself not thinking about your spouse on a regular basis, that's a sign that feelings of love and infatuation are gone. That's a sign that the feelings of connection, the feelings of romance. In order to build an intimate, loving, connected relationship, you've got to know your partner. I had my mentor, Dr. Lori Gordon, wonderful lady. She died a couple of years ago at age 96. Much of who I am has been highly influenced by her and some other, but particularly her. She was brilliant on relationships. She used to say, when I worked for her and would travel with her around the country doing marriage training classes using her work, she used to say, if you don't want to know your partner, then why are you together? If you don't want to know your partner, why are you together? I used to hate that statement. It always grated me because it implied divorce. But in my maturity and professional development, I came to realization, that's a fair question. If you don't want to know me, why are we together? True healthy relationships require you wanting to know a person, but to know them means you want to think, you're thinking about them. You're considering them. See, every day I think about my wife, what's she doing? Like today, I had a meeting at 1 and they had to cancel. So I actually just drove by her work, knowing that she was going to be highly busy. Just drove by there, walked in. She works at a retail clothing store. I just walked in there and smiled, and she looked at me, and she smiled. And I just came to see you. Why? I think about her, and she thinks about me. You can't have a relationship with someone if you don't think about them. And so another sign that you are falling out of love is you find yourself not thinking about them regularly. You think about all kinds of other things. You may think about the kids, but you don't think about your spouse. You don't think about the marriage, the relationship. Why? Because the feelings of love and infatuation are actually beginning to wane and or are gone.